Bikers laughed at the teenage girl's jacket, then noticed the patch that shut them up. The sun had barely begun to sink behind the pine-topped hills when 16-year-old Mara Ellison stepped off the old bus and into the dusty parking lot of Grizzly's Pit Stop Diner. The place was known for two things: the strongest coffee on Highway 9 and being the unofficial hangout spot of the notorious biker crew, the Iron Serpents. Mara's boots crunched on the gravel as she crossed the lot, tugging her oversized denim jacket tighter around herself. The jacket wasn't new, it wasn't fashionable. In fact, it looked like it had lived an entire lifetime before ending up on her shoulders. The denim had faded into a ghostly blue, the cuffs were frayed, and across the back was a collection of strange, mismatched patches, some crooked, some worn nearly blank, others colorful and wild. To anyone else, it looked like something pulled out of a donation bin in 1983. To Mara, it was everything she had left of her father. Her heart beat faster when she saw the row of bikes parked outside the diner, chrome glinting in the fading sunlight, handlebars shaped like steel wings, engines rumbling like restless beasts. A group of bikers lounged near the entrance, laughing, smoking, and arguing about something no doubt ridiculous. Mara swallowed hard but kept walking. She didn't have a choice. She needed to find him. But the moment she stepped onto the concrete slab near the door, the laughter died for a split second, just long enough for someone to notice her jacket. "Look at that thing," a deep, gravelly voice boomed. One of the bikers, a tall man with arms like tree trunks, jabbed a finger toward her. "Kid, did you lose a fight with a thrift store?" The others burst into loud, unapologetic laughter. Another biker chimed in, "No, man, that jacket lost the fight before she even found it." Mara felt heat rise up her neck, but she said nothing. She kept walking, shoulders straight, chin level. She'd grown up learning how to stay calm when people underestimated her. But then one of them, broad-shouldered, tattooed, and wearing a skull-print bandana, stepped forward and blocked her path. "Hey, little lady," he smirked. "What's with all the patches? You trying to start your own club? Maybe." The bedazzled butterflies. More laughter. Louder this time. Mara stopped. She didn't look up. She simply lifted her hand and brushed her hair aside, shifting the jacket slightly. And that's when the sunlight caught the edge of one patch on the back, one she always forgot was even there. It was small, stitched with black and silver thread, and shaped like an eagle soaring across a dagger. Beneath it were the words, "Iron Serpents, founding member." The laughter shut off like someone had flipped a switch. A biker near the edge of the group squinted. "Wait, hold on, is that..." He stepped closer. "That's our patch, the original one." The bandana-wearing biker's smirk vanished. "Kid, where did you get that jacket?" Mara's jaw tightened, and she finally looked up at them, eyes fierce, steady, unafraid. "It belonged to my father," she said. "And I need to find someone. Someone you might know." The bikers exchanged glances, something like confusion, or maybe worry, passing between them. The founding patch wasn't something you bought. It wasn't handed out for fun. It was earned by the original members decades ago. And rumors had it that only 6 of those jackets were ever made. The oldest biker of the group, a gray-bearded man with a deep scar across his cheek, stepped forward slowly. His face had shifted from amusement to something solemn. "What was your father's name?" he asked quietly. Mara hesitated, saying it felt like opening an old wound, one she wasn't sure had ever healed. But she forced the words out. "Reed Ellison." The reaction was instant. A couple of bikers straightened. One muttered a curse under his breath. The gray-bearded man's eyes widened in disbelief. "Reed's girl," he whispered. "But, kid, Reed's been..." Mara raised a hand sharply. "I know what people say happened." She swallowed. "But I don't believe it. And I think someone here knows the truth." Silence hung in the air, heavy and uneasy. Even the sound of engines vibrating in the distance seemed to fade. Finally, the gray-bearded man sighed and motioned toward the diner door. "Come inside." Mara followed, though every step felt like walking on thin ice. Inside the diner, it was warm, sticky with the smell of oil-soaked fries and brewed coffee. The walls were decorated with photos of old biker rallies. A jukebox hummed a low country tune. They settled at a booth. The rest of the bikers kept their distance, whispering among themselves. The gray-bearded man folded his hands. "Reed Ellison wasn't just a founding member," he began. "He was the heart of the Iron Serpents. The best rider, the bravest, and the only one of us who wasn't afraid to walk away." Mara felt her chest tighten. "He never talked about that part," she murmured. He wouldn't, the man replied. Your father didn't like to brag. Mara leaned forward. I need to know what happened to him. People say he died in an accident. But my mother, she always said she felt like something was wrong. Like he didn't just crash. Like someone wanted him gone. The man didn't answer right away. Instead, he looked at the door, making sure no one else was listening. Then he lowered his voice. Some things, he said carefully, are dangerous for you to know. I'm not going home until I get answers, Mara insisted. His eyes softened. You really are Reed's daughter. Silence lingered. Then the man pulled something from his jacket pocket, a tiny metal key attached to a broken chain. He slid it across the table. He left this with me the week before he disappeared. Said if anything happened to him, his daughter would come looking. Mara's breath caught. Her fingers brushed the cold metal. What does it open? The man shook his head slowly. That, he said, is where your story really begins. Mara stared at the small metal key lying on the table. It looked ordinary, old brass, scratched, the top loop cracked where the chain had snapped. But the way the gray-bearded biker watched her, like he was waiting for the earth to split in two, made her realize this key meant far more than she understood. What does it open? She asked again, her voice barely above a whisper. He didn't answer. Instead, he leaned back in the booth, running a thumb across the scar on his cheek. Your father didn't give out many promises, he said slowly. But when he did, he kept them. If he wanted you to have this key, it's because he planned every step of what comes next. Mara swallowed hard. So you knew something might happen to him. His jaw tightened. We all knew. Reed made enemies, inside and outside the club. Some of us warned him. Others stood in the shadows and watched. She stiffened. Watched him die. The man's expression darkened. No one saw him die. That's just the story people settled on because the truth scared them. Mara's heart thumped painfully. She felt like she was standing on a cliff's edge, staring down into a fog of secrets no one wanted her to enter. What truth? She asked. His eyes flicked toward the window, making sure none of the other bikers were listening. Then he lowered his voice. Your father didn't crash his bike, Mara. He vanished. Her breath caught. Vanished. How? I don't know exactly, he said. One night he left the clubhouse alone. He said he had business to handle. It was supposed to be quick. He never came back. Did you look for him? She demanded. Of course we did, he snapped, the edge in his voice revealing guilt he'd carried for years. For weeks, months. But the trail was cold. The only thing we found was his bike, abandoned at the bottom of Breaker's Canyon. Mara shook her head. That doesn't mean he died. I know, the man murmured. And your father knew people would assume the worst. That's why he left you this key. Mara's fingers tightened around it. It felt heavier now, like it was carved from all the unanswered questions she'd lived with since childhood. So what does it lead to? The biker hesitated, then motioned toward the door. Not here. Too many ears. He stood. Mara followed him out of the booth and toward the back exit of the diner. As they stepped outside into the cooling evening air, the other iron serpents watched with quiet curiosity. No more laughter. No more mocking. Only a strange, heavy silence. The scarred man walked toward a rusted shed behind the diner. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a cigarette, then paused before lighting it. I promised your father I'd protect this secret, he said. But you deserve to know. Mara held her breath. He opened the shed door. Inside sat a weathered lockbox, metal corners dented, edges rusted, as if it had survived decades of storms. He dragged it out and placed it on a wooden crate. Your father gave me this years ago, he said. Said it was, for the girl. I didn't know what that meant until today. Mara's pulse quickened. She lifted the key, hands trembling. It slid perfectly into the lock. Click. The lid creaked open. Inside lay 3 things. 1. A thick envelope. 2. An old photograph. 3. A small black device the size of a pager. Mara picked up the photograph first. Her breath hitched. It was her father, young, smiling, standing with 4 other men wearing the original Iron Serpent patches. But something about the image was different. Instead of the camaraderie she expected, 2 of the men had cold, calculating expressions. The scarred biker pointed at the men in the photo. That's your father, he said softly. And those 2, that's Vince Roker and Damian Cage. Both former serpents. Both were pushed out for reasons most members never learned. Mara frowned. Did they hate my father? Hate isn't the right word, he murmured. Reed discovered something they were involved in. When he threatened to expose them, that's when things changed. Mara opened the envelope next. Inside were pages and pages of handwritten notes, her father's handwriting, detailing dates, names, coded messages, and something that made Mara's stomach twist. A list of illegal shipments linked to Vince and Damien. These men were running a side operation, the biker explained. Drugs, weapons, you name it. Reed tried to shut it down. They told him to look the other way. He didn't, and that got him killed. Mara whispered. The man exhaled slowly. It got him hunted. She finally picked up the small black device. It had a single button on the side. What's this? A tracker, he said. Prototype. Reed was testing it, said it was connected to something only he knew about. Mara stared down at the device. A wild, impossible hope sparked inside her. Are you saying he might still be alive? I'm saying, he replied carefully, that your father planned for the worst. Reed Ellison never ran from danger, he prepared for it. Mara's pulse raced. She pressed the button. A faint green light flickered at the top. The biker's eyes widened. It still works. Then, beep. A tiny digital screen on the front lit up with coordinates. Mara inhaled sharply. What is that place? The biker's face turned grim. That's an abandoned mine in the Blackridge Mountains. No one's been there in 20 years. Except my father, she finished. A shadow crossed his face. If you go there, girl, you're stepping into a storm that's been brewing for years. I don't care, Mara said, gripping the tracker. I came here for answers. And I'm going to find them. The biker stared at her for a long, heavy moment. Then he nodded. I'll ride with you. Mara blinked. Why? Because Reed saved my life more times than I deserved, he said. And because if he's alive, or if those who hunted him are still out there, you won't survive this alone. Behind them, motorcycle engines rumbled to life, one by one. The iron serpents, once laughing at her jacket, now stood ready, watching, waiting. Mara tightened her grip on the key, the envelope, and the tracker. Her father's trail wasn't cold. It was burning, and she was ready to follow it, wherever it led.